Hello and welcome back everyone to a new episode of Loremaster Leveling here with our rogue Tafarona. As always, my name is SneakyPod and we are here in Ashenvale trying to lift the siege of Splinter Tree Post. In the last episode we talked a bit about what my wish being the key word here for BlizzCon announcements would be, and I thought we'd grab a related discussion up now, or take it up now, while I go and do the quest here where we kill the outrunners and where we slay demons. First I have a quest I need to return back here though, but the discussion of are all the people who want vanilla servers for WoW just blinded by nostalgia, partly because I'm one of those players who really wants to have vanilla servers, and that's a common thing that you hear or read in discussions regarding whether there should be vanilla or classic or legacy servers, whatever you want to call them. In WoW, a lot of people just say, well, if you actually went back to that game, it wouldn't be as good as you remember it. You'd actually like get bored or gouge your eyes out or whatever and realize you're just wearing rose-tinted glasses. And I actually think that yes, it's true that nostalgia plays a big role in
strength and honor
why people want these types of servers. Okay, now we can corrupt the forest heart, but it's actually not something that is necessarily misleading. So in the sense of that, they think they know what they want but they don't. It's much more about you made certain types of memories with this game that are no longer possible to be made, and you'd like to be able to make similar memories. Obviously not exactly the same, but similar type of memories. And that's where I think that is quite rational. And now you could go like one of my friends went and said, well, life is like that. You can't just go back in time and make similar memories. The beauty of it is that it's all, temporal. And I'd say that, yeah, fair enough, that's true, but the whole fact that we have this technology that allows us to circumvent that and actually almost like synthesize these types of memories that we want in the form of games means that we should actually try and do it, because why not? And we have so many different games and MMOs to begin with that there should be place for, the legacy or old school crowd or whatever you want to call them. Let's look at what this quest is about. So Draken Splinter Tree wants you to fill reinforced canisters with 7 Felfires from Felfire Hill. We're going to Felfire Hill anyway, so let's pick that quest up. And Pixel wants us to destroy 15 of any Night Elf coasts in Dordanil Barrow. We're going there too, so let's pick that quest up. But yeah, I think that nostalgia, even though it is now, say, in movies, for instance, you keep seeing reboots and sequels to movies that really shouldn't have reboots or sequels. Blade Runner accepted here. Blade Runner was awesome. I mean, that was one of the best films I've seen in a long time. They made that really well. But you see, for instance, in films, all these crappy sequels and reboots that are being made, and games have that too. Let's go to Felfire Hill first. So I get the idea here that, nostalgia is something bad because it only leads us to make these crappy subpar products. We should use our time and energy on something else that is actually, much more valuable, or at least useful. But I also think that nostalgia is what you need to create and pander it to a certain degree, because it's a cheap way for a company to show, we care about our customer base and we care about
it's
the
too far away.
Type of
I'm out of range.
How can we siphon these? What type of experience they want out of the game. and especially when it comes to something like, say, WoW, there's been a clear and marked difference between
it's too far away.
what the game was and what the game is. And one of those things is that now the game aims to be more, say, accessible. Tries to take away a lot of the stuff that infuriated people back in the day, because it either took too long or forced you to do things in a convoluted way when you could do them in a much simpler way, stuff like that. But that was also what sort of made the world and made you bond over certain things with other people. So there are people like me, for instance, who prefer that type of gameplay that doesn't make it, and I don't want to use the word easy here because it has nothing to do with difficulty. It has merely to do with how you want to approach your gaming experience.
I need to target
it's kind of thinking on par of, if I want an experience, say, in a food restaurant, what type of experience do I want? Do I want the food to be absolutely gorgeous and amazing, but rather like an appetizer size, so that I'm not going there to get my satisfy my hunger? It's much more to tingle my taste buds. Or do I want an experience that primarily tries to satisfy my hunger in a nice and pleasant way? So that's how you could view it when it comes to like WoW and the whole legacy server debate, is what type of experience do you want from your games, and in this case of WoW. And we have two almost irreconcilable positions here, with people who like the more slow, convoluted, definitely old-fashioned and dated design philosophy, precisely because it allowed us to do so much with the stuff that was dated or broken, say flight paths that just were much more sighting to alike than they are now, allowed us to talk with people. All these small like downtimes, we found ways to do things during that downtime. I famously, for instance, read books when I flew from one end of the continent to another, to the point where my parents didn't quite even believe I was playing a game, or that it was even stranger than they thought it was, because clearly I was reading a book while playing it.
I don't have a target.
But yeah, I think that's one way in which you should, it would be much better to approach the whole legacy server and nostalgia argument in saying it that yes, it's nostalgia, but also in a good way. And the absence of legacy servers, I think, also fuels that nostalgia, in the sense that blinding type of nostalgia. Because if we could actually have a game that tried to be like Legacy WoW, then we could actually make a rational opinion about it and say, okay, for us, we thought it would be something different. It turns out it wasn't. Okay, fair enough. And for other people like me who have experience with legacy servers, it would be like, great. Now here we can actually gather the type of people that like this type of gameplay, this type of gameplay philosophy together, and have fun while doing it, and we don't have to constantly butt heads with people who are just polar opposites in some sense to what we are. And I think that could actually heal much more than divide the community. Of course, Blizzard's argument here is always that we want WoW to move forward. We don't want people to be stuck in the past. But like any creative person who does something that is like in some form art, and I consider games art, but it doesn't need to be art. It's just anything you create for the consumption of other people, so that you have an object and an audience that consumes that object in one way or another. What happens is that the minute you put your object that you've created out there, you no longer have control over how it is perceived and what people make with it. So I think this is here where Blizzard is being quite childish in not realizing that, sure, they have complete intellectual control over WoW as a property, but they can't force people to play WoW the way they want it to be played. They can lament that they wish that people would do it in a different way, but that's about it. I mean, people will do with any Blizzard game or any art object what they want out of it, and that's actually what I find so fascinating about art, is that often it's the artist's intentions don't matter at all. It's what people do with art. It's kind of like Blizzard's argument here is like, don't be stuck in the past, play the WoW that we want you to play. Just to me rings equally as hollow when Tolkien says that his story shouldn't be read as an allegory because he hates allegories. I mean, clearly there's something allegorical about the story. We can all see it. It's in black and white there. Whether he likes it or not, it's a completely different issue that doesn't change the facts at all. And I think that's something that Blizzard should potentially have a look at. But I mean, personally, when it comes to legacy servers, I think it's the same as with the independence of Scotland. It's going to happen at some point. We don't know when, but it's going to happen at some point. What are we trying to find? We're just trying to slay demons. Okay. Now back to the lore, since we are here actually in a lore
I don't have a target.
Filled area of the game, so the Demon Fall Canyon. This was actually where Grom Hellscream, so Garish's father, finally freed the orcs from the curse of the demonic blood, of Manoroth's blood. And this was where he and Thrall fought Manoroth, and finally Grom killed Manoroth but died in the process. There was a, once again, argument for legacy servers. In Old Ogrimmar, you could see Manoroth's armor on a tree, and you could click on it, and you could see this cutscene play out. I'm pretty sure that... Oh, we get a quest item. Diabolical plants. Deliver the diabolical plants to Valusha. Okay. I'm pretty sure you can find the cutscene somewhere in game, but I did like the positioning of it in Old Ogrimmar. So you could basically see Grom kill Manoroth in this very zone. And because Manoroth died here, and that unleashed a lot of demonic blood and demonic energies, that's basically the reason why demons are drawn to this area. And hey, speaking of cutscene, here's the monument to Grom Hellscream. So I think if we click on this actually will show us the cutscene. And I think on Hallow's End you also have a specific ghost that roams this area, but let's click on it. No, this is just the monument, so the inscription. Here lies Gromash Hellscream, chieftain of the Warsong clan. In many ways the curse of all people began and ended with Grom. His name meant Giant's Heart in our ancient tongue. He earned that name 100-fold over as he stood alone before the demon Manoroth and won our freedom with his blood. Loktar Ogar, big brother, may the Warsong never fade. Thrall, war chief of the Horde. So yeah, this is also one of the things that I really liked about the old world building that Blizzard did, and why I think they should have a better look at how they used to build their world. It had all these like nice lore hints to them that sometimes maybe this is a bit ham-fisted. You have a monument like this in enemy lands, why would the enemies raise it, blah blah blah, but I still like it. Obviously there's similar stuff going on in other expansions, but I think not quite to the same degree, or they're clearly like pointed out to you. So obviously here a quest takes you here, and then you might probably see the monument, but the original Ashenvale at least wasn't that much quested in, because everyone, at least from Alliance side, quested in Eastern Kingdoms. And even here this quest chain has been much better integrated into the quest chain of the zone itself. So before, I think I had quested through Ashenvale 2 times before I actually found this place and this monument, which also had to do with the fact that this was a heavily populated area, so death was imminent because of the demons. But yeah, once again, reason for legacy servers, we get more imminent death, And yes, this is, as people say, also purely because we were worse players back then, but also just stat scaling in general. You can look at the math and you can see how mobs were scaled in terms of comparing them to players and the stats that players could reasonably expected to have at that level. And maths wise, it was a tougher fight, and I'm as someone who likes leveling, I'm kind of sad seeing it fade away into obscurity or being made simply a part of the game, because that is what the game used to be about, and that's what the genre still thinks it's about, but that is really no longer supported nor necessary. Like, I mean, there's no reason why we level anything except the last 10 levels, so levels from last level cap to the new level cap. So I think, to plug in on the BlizzCon debate from last episode, I want Blizzard to do something where they actually take a look at leveling. That's definitely on my wish list. Not something I think will happen, but it's on my wish list. Alright, let's go to the Doldenir Barrow then and start doing those quests as well. But yeah, in conclusion, even though this was quite rambling, and I do apologize for the ramblingness of it, but the topic is quite esoteric as well. I don't think that nostalgia on the part of the legacy legacy server community is that bad. It's actually good, and it shows how attached they became to WoW and how good our game WoW was to them, even if it's something that is purely emotional. And you could use this to actually heal the rift that is now going through the community in some sense
I need to get closer.
when it comes to the legacy server debate. Obviously, one has to keep like an eye on that. Some things about the legacy server debate are clearly, the wrong type of nostalgia, the type of nostalgia that in the face of all evidence claims
I need to target something
that something was better than it was. Say, if you're doing a vanilla legacy server, I personally wouldn't touch the class balance, but I'd make it certain for anyone who wants to play the game that class balance was shoddy, and you could only play certain specs if you wanted to raid. And if you wanted something more modern, then probably BC is where you'd want to start, because in BC much more of the specs were, how do you say, not valuable, but viable. There we go, viable for endgame raiding and things like that. So you always need to couch it into like a terminology where people can make an informed choice of do they want to try this out. I mean, I think what people also, when it comes to the legacy server debate, forget about often is that in vanilla, at least for people like me who didn't have the time to raid, the game wasn't about raiding. For me, it was about five-man dungeons. And I mean, I didn't start in vanilla, but it was BC basically, and I started raiding late BC, much later than I could have. So for me, the game was much more about 5-man dungeons, and that's what I did when I was on the servers that provide you a vanilla-like experience. I didn't raid, I just did 5-man dungeons, and I still want those tough 5-man dungeons that were deemed useless in Kata back, because, oh dear, that was a tough mob. Okay, we died. Back, because I think you can give people a good challenge without putting them into a raid environment and having it be more tough-knit groups. I mean, now it's probably harder to bring back those hard dungeons because, we have flex raiding that is supposed to make everyone get into raiding, and we have looking for raid and stuff like that. But back then we didn't, so people found other things to do apart from raiding that fulfilled their sense of in-game progression, and you know that this was something that they wanted to put their time into. Alright, that's my timer though, so let's go and find our corpse and then call it an episode. No idea why that druid of the claw was that tough. He was only level 25. We are almost 25 as well, and we didn't even make a dent into him or her. The cat, after all, it was hard to tell which gender it was. Well, not gender, which sex it had. There we go. Could have identified as any gender. And a half-hybrid cat gender with, what do I know? Alright. We have the barrow up there, and that's also where our corpse is. Interesting that we don't see these ghosts any differently from the way they are shown in the real world, since we are now essentially in the same plane of existence as ghosts are. They don't look more corporal or anything. That could be a nice RP touch that Blizzard could add. On the topic of ridiculous demands that we can put towards Blizzard. Alright, well, I will call this an episode here. So once again, thank you for watching. Let's dodge this cat. If you did like the video, to give it a like. If you like the channel, to give it a subscribe. If you have any opinion on that rambling talk of mine regarding nostalgia and legacy servers, put it in the comment. I mean, I'm happy to discuss it with people regardless of their opinion. So whatever you think, just put it in the comment there, and we can have a chat about it. Yeah. Other than that, as always, I've been Sneaky Bard. You have been awesome, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you. Bye bye.